Alright, so at this point in my YouTube knife video career, I've talked a lot of shit, made a lot of videos, and I still can't stop with the bad purchasing decisions. So right now here in 2019, let's do a list of my favorite knives. It's not about what works well for others, it's about what I like, and I attempt to explain why I like the knife. When I look for an everyday carry, my ideal knife needs to hit a few metrics. Generally, first, the blade is over 3 inches, but not much larger than 4. Second, it needs to be around 4 ounces or less in weight. Third, it needs to have a decent sized ergonomic grip, around 3.5 inches or so. And maybe lastly, a pocket clip. If a knife is great or cool or has Damascus or complements my patchy beard as manly, I'll bend my rules. But what you will find here are my favorite general purpose pocket knives. Sorry there aren't any super budget knives here, but I generally don't like my budget knives enough to carry them often. You're like, what if you lose one? And I say, I don't care if I lose one because I have 50 of them. So what are 10 pocket knives I can't give up and why? Unless I'm forced to because of excruciating knife debt. I don't know if these are in any particular order. They might be, but they also might not be. First up, the knife that started it all. The Spyderco Enderura 4. A lot has changed in the steel and knife world since 2012 when I bought this. Before this knife, I had a Leatherman PST multi-tool in my pocket or on my belt. It was my main pocket knife through film school, even though it's a multi-tool, and it's still with me today, even considering my lucrative YouTube video career. But after some time, I bought the Endura to complement my multi-tool, which I had upgraded to the Wave by having a larger blade. So the blade of the Endura is made from a flat ground VG10 steel. Now while VG10 is still a decent steel, some people in the knife world literally use it as toilet paper. It sounds uncomfortable, but that's their thing. If a person wanted a good knife and maybe wasn't concerned about fancy new locks that are fun to fidget with, or more modern, expensive super steels, and they wanted a well-built pocket knife that's reliable and easy to sharpen on Spyderco's SharpMaker system, they would choose this great knife. I think it's well worth the $70 now that they charge for it. The Endura 4 is light, very thin in the pocket, has a large, comfortable handle, and comes very, very sharp out of the box. You will definitely cut yourself with it. Next up, the Benchmade Fact. Early last year, Benchmade sent me one of their facts to do a review on. They liked that video so much that they haven't returned any of my DMs since I posted my review. For standard humans, being ghosted by a hot piece of tail makes you real sad. For influencers, it's like that, but with corporations instead of people. I'm just joking, corporations are people too. The Benchmade Fact, I wouldn't call it some sort of hard-use military-style knife, although it plays one in dress-up. It has a long handle, a needle-like thin pointy blade, and a fast one-handed deployment and closing. It doesn't feel big in the pocket, and I think it looks cool as shit. The S30V steel was the standard super steel for a while. I mean, people don't think so now, but it works well for me. What does it do well that other knives don't? I think the pointy tip works well for removing threads from tags on clothing. So that seems a great reason to own a medium to light use everyday carry knife for $178. Number 3, the Laconico Keen. I used to call it the Laconico. But you know what? I've grown as a reviewer since then. Every collection needs a beautiful purple knife. It's the color of opulence, taste, and of kings. And if you don't agree purple is the most luscious, fanciful color, then it comes in a few other boring ones too. I mean, that is, if you could get it. It's a Massdrop knife and it might roll around again sometime soon. But in the meantime, sign up for Massdrop so you can test out that email filter you just set up. At a hair over 4 ounces with the S35 VN blade and titanium handle, it checks all the feature boxes for high MSRP loving knife snobs. Although, at only $140, it means it's still relatively affordable for an occasional use piece of man jewelry. Wee Knives makes it, and it's actually cheaper than a lot of their titanium purple knives under the Wee brand. It uses a flipper for deployment, so it's fun to fidget with, and I guess, I don't know, use if it comes to that. Hopefully not, right? Hopefully you just take pictures of it. 4, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Now I'd be lying if I said I still carry the Endura often. There's nothing wrong with the Endura 4, other than it's what poorer people would buy. Like, not that poor, but you know, you still have to be in a place where you could rationalize purchasing a pocket knife that costs more than the nicest of framing hammers, but you get what I mean. The Paramilitary 2 improves upon the Endura by having a more tactical name, using a finer blade steel, meaning more theoretical cuts per sharpen, and an easier to open and close one-handed compression lock. compression locks are only on Spydercos, and fake Spydercos from China. And considering locking mechanisms are one of the only things you can still patent in the knife design world, that's a big deal, especially for patent lawyers. Plus the handle is nice and comfortable, and it comes in all sorts of limited edition handle colors and blade steels. The Paramilitary 2 is probably Spyderco's best knife. If you need something a little smaller, look into the Para 3, which is just a more compact, proportioned version of the Paramilitary 2. Both knives have options starting in the $140 range. Alright, screw it, let's get the last Spyderco out of the way. You knew there was going to be more than two in this list. The $170 Caribbean. It's bigger than the Paramilitary 2, has like it or hate it looks, and has that compression lock that has become a favorite locking mechanism on a folding knife for me. One of the unique features of the Caribbean, other than being a larger knife than the PM2, and only a hair heavier, is its blade, a rust-free steel known as LC200N. Not stainless, but rust-free. If your knife is wet a lot and you have rust problems, well, I mean, not you personally, but if you have problems with rusty tools, this is the knife for you. Despite its large size, it has a slim profile in the pocket and feels much smaller than it is when you're carrying it. All right, let's go back up that MSRP scale for a bit. The Hawk Knives Mud Auto, M-U-D-D Auto. The Mud has seen several revisions and variations over the years, all still expensive on the secondary market. Zero Tolerance had a Mud manual that's been discontinued, and Hawk Knives made manual versions of the Mud over the years too. The current version that you have to sign up for, the email list to purchase, is manufactured in the USA by OEM maker Millet. Most of the parts are actually made by Millet, but Hawk Knives assembles them, according to an email they sent me. A few times a year, a new batch comes up for sale, and it sells out fairly quick, so if you're on the list and the email shows up, you have to be fast, like within a few minutes. At $390, it isn't a knife for everyone. And my best justification as to why I like the knife so much is it's cool looking. I mean, it's also made from pretty premium materials, has a great blade steel that's M390-ish in performance, called 20CV. And the fit and finish is also excellent. Every surface has been chamfered, tumbled, and rounded, so it feels nice and comfortable in the hand. I don't really like many autos, especially standard folding out of the side varieties, but this fits most of my qualifications for everyday carry. The main negatives would be it's a little on the heavier side for my taste at 4.5 ounces, and side autos aren't super easy to close one-handed. You can do it, but you have to be a real pro like me. Okay, next up is another Benchmade. Over the years, I've reviewed quite a few Benchmade knives, and while it could be argued that there are better Benchmades for pocket carry like the 940, 941, the Bug Out, the Freak, the Griptilian, my favorite weekend carry Benchmade is still the full-size Crooked River. Not a good knife you can bring to work or carry in your skinny jeans because it's big ass and it's pretty. A rational person might rightly point out that the mini Crooked River is probably a better choice for an everyday carry knife. But the full size to me just feels right. It has classic lines and profiles inspired by knives, I don't know, say like the Buck 110. I don't like the Buck 110 much other than its looks. Okay, mainly because the 110 is a handle-heavy knife. It's hard to close one-handed, and you have to carry it on your belt or sideways with your keys in the bottom of your pockets. But I get some people why your Uncle Randy like it. And the weird thing is the full-size Crooked River is a larger knife, but it's lighter. In fact, it's nearly 2 ounces lighter than the 110. It's comfortable to hold, even though it may be a bit slippery, and it's super easy to open and close one-handed. Is it worth $190 for the Made in USA beast? Sure, everything's worth something to someone, even states like Missouri. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little with this one. If you need a basic tool that's useful and not some pocket vanity bullshit like most of this video, just buy a Leatherman Wave. It has a 25-year, if you break something on it, they fix it warranty. Just send it in and they send it back. It's arguably more useful than just a pocket knife by itself. You can even get a pocket clip for it if you don't want to carry it on your belt. I have owned and used a Leatherman tool for years before I bought any dedicated pocket knives, and a multi-tool is a useful camping companion, work tool, and everyday carry. This one costs about $90 now. I currently, for reasons unknown, I own nearly all of the current production Leatherman tools, even the Charge TTI, and the Wave is still the most well-rounded for me. I did a review of it, and nearly all the other knives you see in this video, so be sure to check those out. Now, the GEC Bull Buster, based on the classic Sawbuster knife pattern. Mainly, you're missing modern things like a lock, a pocket clip, and a stainless steel blade, which is no big deal since those only became popular features on pocket knives in the 1980s. For example, before the 1980s, adding a pocket clip to a knife was pretty uncommon because it was nearly an impossible engineering challenge. Think the miracle of flight, except some bullshit I just made up. However, the disadvantages to carrying modern knives are the lectures from Uncle Randy's telling you that pocket clips and locks are for soft modern beta males. No exaggeration, unfortunately. Those comments just keep rolling in. However, you can rest easy knowing that the real people in the lives of Uncle Randy are so sick of his whining and perceptions on what makes a man a real man that the only place they can voice those opinions in real life is on the internet. The GEC Sawbuster is one of only 2 affordable production Sawbuster styles still made in the US. It has a rust-curious carbon steel blade that builds character as you use it. Wiping down and oiling your blade might not prevent discoloration, but it'll keep any serious rust at bay. This particular variation has a polished green micarta handle, which is smooth and comfortable. For nostalgia's sake, this knife comes sorta sharp. It costs only about 65 bucks, and if you're just a cheap old asshole, buy the $30 case Sawbuster, which is only slightly less refined and has a plastic or synthetic handle. I'm going to make the second to last knife on here something a little more outside the box in my taste in pocket knives. The Hea Designs Poison. This smallish titanium flipper and its similar model, the Antidote, are fun, compact, fidget-friendly pocket knives. I don't normally like Tanto grinds for the cutting edge on blades, but I just like the design so much that I let it slide. It's lightweight, the blade rockets out when you hit the tab, and it sports a decent S35VN stainless steel blade. At 200 bucks, it ain't cheap, although I paid a little under 200 for mine. Which brings me to the final knife. Number 11 is an appropriate number for the Chris Reeve Sebenza 21. When 10 isn't good enough. Of course, Chris Reeve knives are often regarded as the finest production knives by internet knife experts everywhere. A production knife, of course, is made mostly by machine and finished by hand. And apparently it's also one of the best-selling knives too. If Reddit Knife Swap is any indication, it's like 3/4 of the knives there. This presumably is because they're made out of premium materials right here in the USA and have an incredible attention to detail. Now this limited edition KnifeArt.com exclusive cost me a cool $455 at the time, which was a bit above the standard run-of-the-mill $400 large Sebenza. It's half carbon fiber, half titanium construction, keeps the weight under 4 ounces, and if I'm spending this much on a knife, it better be under 4 ounces, or I better love the design. It's a very comfortable, solid knife in the hand. Guess it's durable and comes in a nice box too. Now it's true you'll be less likely to find an uneven blade grind or off-centered blade than say a USA-made Benchmade or Spyderco. The Sebenza is kind of a slow deploying knife. It's not something that necessarily performs any better than say a Benchmade bug out. But it is titanium, okay? I say that because I whooped up on the bug out a similar amount as I whooped up on the Sebenza in my review, and believe it or not, the bug out held up a bit better. It still deploys and closes the same. Kind of screwed up the Sebenza's detent. Also, believe it or not, it's possible to Google Sebenza uneven grind or Sebenza off-centered blade and get results. Shh, don't tell anyone though. The reason this knife is on the list is because buying it taught me that spending a great amount on a production knife is often more about branding and an intangible reputation than performance. If you absolutely love the design, the knife is probably worth it. If you were just curious and you own $100 to $200 production knives that you're really happy with, don't expect the Sebenza to change your life. Anyway, like this video, subscribe, watch the full reviews for the videos linked below, and at the end, comment, follow me on Instagram, donate to my Patreon. Thanks for watching.